In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. They promise it'll get better, but it usually gets worse. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data, so we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, and other industry scandals are designed to keep the money flowing. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing, so they do a virus scan and then wipe out our precious photos. Intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Marc Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office, overlooking the Can of Worms in downtown Rochester, New York, this is the Computer Exorcist Podcast. My name is Marc Anthony Arena. I'm so glad you joined us today for part 2 of my interview with McGyver Technologies. I'm so glad you're here. Hope y'all have been interested so far. Hope you had a great time last week. So, yeah, Mike, you're saying everything I'm thinking. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's because we came to the same conclusions independently of each other. We've both seen the same things over the course of our somewhat long lives, and we thought, you know what? This is not the future they promised us. This ain't Star Trek yet. Things worked in Star Trek. The computer taught them that much. They were on the same page. And now we get here, it's almost a dystopian world where George Orwell he really was a history teacher. And they looked at that book not as a warning. They looked at that book as a owner's operator's manual. This is what the future is going to look like. A boot stopping on a human face forever. And that boot is technology.
Whoa. That I've never heard of. That's incredible, and that's unfortunately true. When we're gonna finish the article, and then afterward, I really want to ask you, because I try to finish on a positive note. I want to ask you how you and I are starting to liberate people from this boot, right? And even if it's just raising awareness, right? That's why I do this show. I do this show for I don't sell a lot of books, folks. I do this show out of the kindness of my own heart, and my guests come on, same thing. No one pays anyone. My guests come on from the kindness of their own heart to raise awareness. Okay, where were we?
We were going to write me a check. I thought, what are you talking about?
And folks, by the way, if I didn't say this before last week, Mike is my first licensed computer exorcist, and it brought me much joy. And knowing, I didn't have to train him at all. We did one phone call, one long call, and that was it. He already knew the stuff, but it was such a feather in our caps in both cases, right? It was a feather in my cap and hopefully a feather in yours that I could say, hey, look, I'm not alone, and my website shows I have an affiliate in case you live on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And someone I trust. And because I'll never have employees again, but I'm referring people to people I trust. And I'm just, and I'm meeting a lot of people over the past couple of years, and I'm just so encouraged. So, according to Burla's own founder, part of the draw of vacuuming data out of cars is that so many drivers are oblivious to the fact that their cars are generating so much data. Right? Including how hard you're cornering and how aggressively Mark's dad is driving. MSAB marketing materials promise cops a vast array of sensitive personal information quietly stored in the infotainment consoles. And side note, right, those integrated infotainment systems need to go immediately, right? You and I grew up with cars where, hey, look, if the cassette deck is out of date, rip it out and put in a CD player, right? It was a simple, they call it a DIN slot, and you put in whatever you want. It was fully independent. It didn't control the car.
Right. It wasn't integrated into the CAN bus system.
Yeah, that too, right, the evil CAN bus fiber optic system, where I had a client who had this Audi SUV, and it was big and beautiful and whatever, but his rear wiper broke, and it caused the whole car to break because it's one single fiber optic loop.
Well, I read a story maybe 6 months ago. A guy had a brand new Ford F-150, and he started getting all kinds of bizarre error codes, and it wouldn't run right. It would go in limp home mode.
Oh, yeah.
Throw all kinds of random codes. And after, I don't know how much money it was, but it was thousands and thousands of dollars. The problem was traced to a leaky rear taillight assembly.
You know what? Yeah. I have a couple old cars, and one of them, the rear tail light always filled up with water. And you know what my mechanic did? He drilled a hole in the bottom of it. So guess what? Water's going to come in. It's inevitable. We'll just drill a hole and let it drain.
Simple solutions are always best.
It's incredible.
It didn't cause your windshield wipers to act funny.
Not at all. And in my guy's case, he had to buy an $800 rear windshield motor in order to get his car working again. Yeah. So old cars.
Part in assembly, and suddenly it's going to be hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Yep. So a tapestry of personal details, and that, by the way, folks, hate to bring it up again, but the reason behind the ultra complexity is to make that car less repairable, right?
Right.
So a tapestry of personal details akin to what CBP might get if they actually cracked into your phone itself. This data can include recent destinations, favorite locations, call logs, contact lists, text messages, emails, pictures, videos, social media feeds. I mean, I doubt that phones are sucking your social media feeds, but it's one of those potential things. And the navigation history, absolutely, of everywhere the vehicle has been. MSAB even touts the ability to retrieve deleted data and divine future plans, right? Thanks to demonic AI. They're now guessing based on implications, like, oh, every Tuesday Marc goes to a sub shop. Well, I suppose next Tuesday we'll know where to find him. And identify known associates and patterns. And I had dinner with a buddy one time, and it's a long, crazy story. I'm trying to figure out how to say this politely, but basically, he had an ex-wife, and she left her Find My iPhone on, and he actually used it to figure out that the ex-wife knew somebody else who was taking her car to a drug dealer every week, or something like that, right? So, in other words, with this technology, you can learn things about people, right? You can guess a lot of things about people, huh?
Right. That's called metadata. We don't have to know what you're doing. We just have to know a few data points, and we can fill in the rest. It's like
Yeah, I mean, that's Godfather stuff right there, right? It's like, well, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know enough, right?
Right, exactly.
Wow.
You would want to have a little 12-year-old kid that constantly tells everything about you when you take him to the ball game, constantly everybody around him. Well, you've got a phone and a car and an iPad and a tablet. They're doing that, and they're selling the data and not giving you a cut.
Oh, love it. Yeah, good point. Another great point, Mike. Not giving you a cut. It's one thing. Well, and again, I mean, that's the deal with the with that insurance company. You know, they dangle pennies, and even if you don't have the little physical device that plugs into your OBD2 in the car, if it's just the girls you were talking about with the app on the phone still has an accelerometer, right? So even if I don't want to manufacture a device, I'll make an app. I'll hire a dude for $1,000 to make an app, and that app is going to record where you're going and how fast you're going and how often you're driving and so on. And yeah, they might give you a few pennies, right? They will give you a cut, but it'll be a few pennies, and you're selling your freedom out. It's not just the government. It's not just Silicon Valley. It's everyone.
We're selling our freedom out. That's it. I always harken back to the old Dead Kennedys album, "Give me convenience or give me death."
Right? But you know, all the time, every month I've been saying, dangle convenience. They dangle the convenience, and unfortunately, since people don't have critical thinking skills, they're all falling for it. So, folks, look, if you want to ask us how to live a good life and how to avoid this stuff, anything that says convenience, you should probably avoid or at least look into. How's that?
Right, exactly. Always be suspicious of somebody that comes up to you and says, "I'm going to make your life a better place to be."
Right. It's what's in it for me, what's in it for them, all that.
Yeah.
So this technology can discover when and where a vehicle's lights are turned on and which doors are open and closed. And we already said speed logs. And it's car-based surveillance, right? They don't even have to put a camera in front of your car or hire a PI to go follow you. It's car-based surveillance. Yeah. It's compatible with 24 makes of vehicles, and again, like, I do have one of my cars is a modern car, but it's extremely stripped down, right? So it has no OnStar and any of that. You know, that's another thing. It's convenience, but it records you. So these sorts of extraction tools will be used more broadly to circumvent constitutional protections against unreasonable searches, okay? And I always say that it's sad, but I laugh when they say, "Ooh, that's unconstitutional," right? Because A, you might have to have a long battle in some court, but B, Silicon Valley does not care about laws, and they just do whatever they want, and they aim to supplant government. So when asked if the company maintains any guidelines on use of its technology, the company does not set customer policy or governance on usage. Okay, it's just, here it is. So the ubiquity of the smartphone provided police around the world with an unparalleled gift. A large portion of an individual's private life stored conveniently in one object we carry nearly all the time. As our phones have become more sophisticated, they've grown better secured as well, with Apple and MSAB engaged in a constant back and forth. Okay, fine, right? And side note, I love how, I don't love how this article, it has a political bent to it, right? It's, we don't like this, and we don't like this organization, and we don't like that organization, and that government bureau, and we don't like that. Folks, it doesn't matter what hat you're wearing. Take off the blinders and stop worrying about one stupid organization. It's the fact that anyone can get into this little thing in your pocket. I don't care if it's the police or Mark Zuckerberg or who. Do you agree?
Absolutely. People always rail about the First Amendment. They want to protect the Second Amendment. They always talk about the Fourth Amendment. And I plead the Fifth. The one they never really think about, and the one that scares me the most, is the Third Amendment. No soldier of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner during time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. And that's exactly what these things are. They're little ratting, rat-think soldiers.
Wow. That's a good way to put it. And even though the language of the Constitution is antiquated, you get the concept because you are a critical thinker and you get you get the concept here. It doesn't matter if it's a soldier or a kid or a phone or whatever. It's the point that they're monitoring you.
Right. Well, the First Amendment doesn't apply to ink and quills. The Second Amendment doesn't just apply to muskets.
Right. Right.
Doesn't just apply to military soldiers. The concept is a soldier or a thing in your home. Right.
It's the underlying concept. And that's what I try to teach people. Yup. You said it.
Soldiers would harass their people and eat out their substance. What are these devices doing? They're harassing our people and will eat out our substance.
And see, people are so literal that they say, well, there's no soldier with a musket in front of me, so I must be safe, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, you just switch hats. And I say this all the time, right? It's if you want to make spyware nowadays, you just make a legal company with an evil secretary and an evil water cooler, and voila, you've got spyware, but you wear a hat that says, I made a PC cleaner, and you get away with it.
Exactly. Or I made a really fun game.
Yeah.
Turns your camera and microphone on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. It's hey, I'll get away with whatever I want. I'll call it a different thing, and people will just fall for it because it's fun and convenient.
Yeah, it's like this big dust up a few years ago about the company Huawei with cameras and all kinds of surveillance hardware, and I've sold some of them back before I knew, when I was selling cameras and surveillance stuff. And people often ask me, Mike, what is the cloud? And I say, listen very carefully. Here's the simple answer. The cloud is someone else's computer. There was a time that I was I was at a Unix conference and in Los Angeles by the airport. And almost every booth, to a man, had a big picture of a cloud, and let us put your data in our cloud. Use our cloud for backup. Don't lose your data. And I started asking them, let me ask you a question. If I put my data in your cloud, who owns it? And nobody has it.
Whoa.
You, not me.
Wow. Who owns it? Huh. That's wow. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, write that down. Scribe.
Wow, that's huge. No, that's absolutely huge.
So when you your stuff to Apple or Microsoft or Dropbox, and you put your stuff on there, yeah, it's convenient. Yeah, you can collaborate with Bobby across the country. But in the end, if something goes wrong and you're suddenly being brought up for an alleged crime that you didn't commit, well, who owns that data? Well, if they get the police, the government goes over to them and says, I'll tell you what, let me see what's in that Dropbox, and we won't, have the IRS come talk to you later. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing, right? Because if you think about it, the cloud, yeah, like you said, it just, in a simple, again, because people are, I'm so terrified because computers are scary, so people shut down out of fear, right? Right. And, there's a side note, I had a lady this week, she brought her computer to a local shop. The scumbag at the shop saw the Apple logo on her computer, and he became paralyzed by fear, and his brain shut off. So he took it all apart, took the hard drive out, shrugged his shoulders, and put it in the garbage because he didn't know what it was, right? Because a hard drive is a hard drive is a hard drive, but he got scared. And it was like an ancient Egyptian throwing away the brain of the mummy because he didn't know what it was. Like, I don't know what this is. And then he took the rest of the machine apart for no reason and handed it back to her in pieces and shrugged his shoulders. So anyway, the point is, people's brains turn off, right? What do they say? They glaze over, right, when they hear anything scary. So, folks, the cloud just means other people's computers. Okay. So it's kind of like if you put something up on a shelf or in one of those airport storage bins or whatever. And that's a great point that Mike brings up here, is who does it belong to and what brand, right? So if you go with Dropbox, they're the prevailing brand, and they're getting real greedy lately, where if you have Dropbox installed in your computer and you plug anything in, it immediately pounces and sucks the contents out of your thumb drive. And it's awful. They used to be great and they fell apart. So the point is, I wouldn't necessarily trust Dropbox with anything I care about, because who knows? And you go look it up. I don't even know. I have no idea, but you can go look up, does Dropbox give out, do they betray their own customers when a government asks, or who knows, right? They probably don't sell the data to other people. Like Facebook sells everything, including your private messages. So the point is, do the research on the company. I personally use iDrive, and I do have a referral code on my website, but even if you don't use it, I don't care about money. I care about objective recommendations. So if you do use a cloud service, make sure you willingly sign up for one that that you've done research on. 99% of people aren't aware that their data has been sucked by iCloud Drive, the Apple iCloud Drive scandal or the OneDrive scandal. Okay. Shall we continue?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to bring up one more thing.
Yes.
One more important piece of data that you're giving away willy-nilly, and I'm sure I've done it too, and you probably have, is your own personal biometrics. The shape of your face, the shape of your face, the sound of your voice.
Yeah.
And that's powerful too. There was a very clever scam. I got the phone call. I couldn't believe it. And the phone call wants something like this, a very perky sounding, beautiful young woman. Hi, my name's Heather. I'm sorry, I'm having a problem with my headset.
Right.
Can you hear me? And when you would say yes, they would record your voice and then sign up for all kinds of things electronically.
Yeah. I've heard of that one. And so to conclude the part about yeah, absolutely. And they come up with new scams every day. And the reality is, as human beings, we got to stop with the scams and the control and then scams and control, right? That eternal cycle, that eternal vicious cycle. And we got to stop with all that and start caring about people.
Yes.
So the answer to all this stuff is use the aux jack. If your car still has a real aux jack, it's a headphone jack that only sends music and phone calls and nothing else, and that's all I use in all of my cars is a real aux jack. Unlike Bluetooth, it always works because instead of an evil slob making software, it's a real physical jack that uses the laws of physics made by God that'll always work eternally to play your music, and it doesn't suck data out of your phone.
Right, exactly.
And that's why they're so eager to drop the aux jack from newer cars, because it'll save them 2 cents and they'll be able to pull more data out of you. But you can get adapters. So, data-hungry government agencies increasingly move to exploit the rise of the smart car. Okay? We had a Ford Explorer, we pulled the system out, and we recovered 70 phones that had been connected to it, right? Or we recovered the data from 70 phones that had been connected to it. All of the call logs, contacts, and texts. Smart car systems intended to be paired with your phone, allowing you to calls and dictate texts and plug in your map and read emails. And whenever you plug it in, you've probably been prompted to share your contact list, presented as a necessary step, right? People don't know that they can say disallow, right? When I get a rental car and I have to do Bluetooth, fine, I'll connect it, and then it says, do you want me to suck all your contacts? And I say no. And then it says, cool, all right, fine, let's keep going in life, right? It doesn't ban you from connecting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, without any warning, it also includes a perfect record of everyone so the contact list will take a perfect record of everyone they've ever known. And so, again, actually that's made quite clear. You don't have to agree to all the steps in order to do... And the same thing with most websites, right? If you go to a website, plenty of examples. I was doing one earlier today, and... even when you buy something, right, there is a little checkbox at the bottom that says, yeah, I want to buy your product, but turn off the checkbox that says spam me forever, right? You can always go into a deal with a few reservations. It's like if you sign a contract and you say, look, I want to change a couple things, right? So people rent cars and they don't even think about the places they're going to go and what the car is recording. So your phone dies, and then, oh wait, there's going to be this nice convenient USB port. So even if you're not using Bluetooth, you plug your phone into the USB port, and you don't realize that it's not simply a charging port, but it's a data port that then, guess what? Sucks the contents out of your phone. So folks, go to Big Lots or go to some store, go to maybe the dollar store, whatever, and buy a cigarette lighter adapter. Yes, I said the word cigarette. Buy a cigarette lighter adapter and plug it into that round 12-volt thing so you know it's purely a charging port. Right? And maybe there are ports in your car that are purely charging, right? You just have to know which ones are data and connected and sucking your data. The other thing you can do, folks, is the dollar store also offers cheapy USB cables that don't have the data wires in them. They just have the charging wires inside of them. How smart is that?
Yes, pretty smart.
Yeah, so I actually like those cheapy cables because it only has the charging wires in them, so I know I'm only charging and I'm not synchronizing data with something. And the other classic example is when I work with clients who own restaurants, right? And I go in there and the waiters and waitresses are plugging their phones into the computer at the front desk of the restaurant, not realizing that if you're infected with a Samsung phone, it immediately auto-inserts, especially if you have Verizon, it immediately auto-inserts Samsung and Verizon malware fully legally into that computer. So look, if you own a restaurant or whatever, get a real AC adapter, a real phone charger, and stick it in the wall for your employees. Okay, let's finish up here. People rent cars, they go places, your phone died, use a cigarette lighter. It's quite comical when you sit back and read some of the text messages. All right, so these companies are now reading stuff, right? And they say we can leverage consumers' lack of understanding in order to exploit them in ways that they might object to if it was done in the real world. Again, my slogan is, I always use analogies to show people how preposterous my world is. But again, if people knew what was happening to them in this world, they'd get torches and pitchforks. The push to make our cars our extensions of our phones, right? Our phones are extensions of our brains, and our cars are extensions of our phones, make them tremendously enticing for generously funded police agencies with insatiable appetites for surveillance data. Again, my message to this author is, hey buddy, look, it's not just police agencies, it's human beings who have a tendency to have appetite for surveillance, okay?
Oh,
well, yeah.
That's all. Just exactly. Yep. It's just people are inherently curious.
Yeah.
Inherently irrationally greedy.
Yep.
And if presented with a voyeuristic option or opportunity, they'll take it.
Wow. Yeah. I find it difficult, but I always, when I get a customer's hard drive, right, I'm in someone's house, I don't look at stuff. I just look, copy your stuff. It's not mine to look at. We'll just copy it blindly, right. And yeah,
to me it's all just data. I don't really care what it says. In fact, whenever I have to look at somebody's photo library, I always, before I ever open the library, I say, are there any pictures in this library you do not wish me to see?
There you go. I mean, I'll say it simply. I just say, hey, is it okay if I open this? Right. Absolutely. Right. And that's the mark of a respectful computer guy. Thank you, Mike. So this technology can be applied like warrantless phone searches, right? And that's a good thing that this Mi Gente group is saying, right? And their whole thing is, the Mi Gente group is obviously worried about people coming across the southern border and all of that. But again, that's so small-minded, right? This can happen to anyone. And you can get into the debate of whether or not the country has a right to look at your phone if you're entering their country, right? If I go to some other country, I expect them to put me through security. So CBP's parent agency, Homeland Security, is designed to proliferate intelligence among major law enforcement agencies. Okay, so that's the other thing is, all right, CBP gets my data, and then they'll spread it to other parts of the government. Same thing with Silicon Valley, folks. It's the same thing. Facebook gets your data, they sell it to Bing. So look, nobody's happy, right? Nobody on either side of the aisle is happy with this stuff. That's that. So in the last couple minutes, McGyver Tech, what do you think of any last comments on the article, and what do you do to make this world a better place? I mean, I'm sure over the years I've cried on your shoulder and said, Mike, the world's a mess, and what do we do?
Well, the first thing we can do is try to understand what's going on. And the second is warn as many people as possible. I've had some clients that couldn't care less. I've had some that say, oh, I've got nothing to hide. And what am I worried about? Mm-hmm. And I've had some want me to install 3 VPNs on their computer and lock everything down. They don't want anything to do with the cloud. And I would call them a bit hyper paranoid, mm-hmm. maybe harder than I think they are. And
so you get both extremes, yep. And to the people who don't care, I say, look, if you have nothing to hide, Samsung's recording what you say through your bedroom television. If you have nothing to hide, would you mind if I smashed into your bedroom window at night? Of course.
Right, exactly. But you see, you're a person. you have a face attached to you.
Again, same thing, right? If it's in the analog world, they see the reality, but in the digital world, they don't see it, right?
Exactly. It's a black box that never really changes its shape. So whatever it does under the covers, you'll never know, and it's not near the threat.
But at least we're raising awareness, like you said. When I tell people their Samsung TV is recording them, some people thank me, and they're appreciative, and that's awesome.
Yeah, as I understand it, somewhere in the owner's manual in the back in fine print, it says, be careful what you say in front of your TV.
Incredible.
Now, George Orwell's universe or what?
Yeah, dude, we're here.
Yeah. And once it's data, and suppose for just spitballing here, suppose a non-governmental organization, the old NGOs we've heard so much about, they're non-government, they don't have to abide by the Constitution. They can freely buy your data from your insurance company, from your car company, from your phone company, and use it and just share the data with other government agencies.
Or anyone, right? Again, anyone with evil intent, right? People don't understand. And one of the things I've learned as an adult, right, is it doesn't matter what hat you're wearing, it's what your intention is.
Oh, very good point.
Wow. So, look, Mike and I are out there in the world. The day I met him, I was just so encouraged. At least there's two of us, right? And and there are many more out there, and we're starting to meet them now. And I am so grateful that I know you. You don't know just how grateful I am to know you. And
likewise, Mark, you're a good man and very thorough with what you do, and the way you guide and shepherd your clients, and the way you've counseled me, I appreciate it immensely.
That's awesome. So, any last thoughts on what you do for people and how you can, point them toward better tech, right? You don't have to hide out in a bunker. Like, you can use good technology. That's true.
I don't really have any final parting words of wisdom. Just keep your head about you. Like I said earlier, if you're home in your pajamas with a cup of coffee, you're not safe if you're in front of a computer. Keep that in mind. Never fall for scams. Remember, if it sounds scary, they're probably trying to ply you with fear to get you to give them a credit card number or something.
Right, if there's that urgency, right. And it's, yeah.
Don't be a sucker.
Yeah, and again, the other thing I want to add to that is you can be safe, right? It's not that you're never safe. It's, if we come in and we rip out all the corporate malware, the bloatware from HP, and put a little piece of tape or a little plastic flap over your camera, and again, I want you to know, folks, that you're empowered as long as you use your own wisdom and judgment to resist scary sentences. As long as you do that, you're fine. As long as you do that, you're totally fine. Well, thank you so much, McGyver Tech, for all of your wisdom tonight, and you are welcome back anytime.
Thank you very much, Mark. You're very, very thorough what you do. I appreciate all your help, and be sure to check out his website, The Computer Exorcist. He has lots of great advice, and that he buy his book. It's fantastic. I read it all the way through. I thought, this guy's got me. He understands exactly how I feel.
Oh, that means so much. And his website is McGyver Tech, McGyver Tech.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, Mark.
It's all